Welcome to SmithWeekly Discussions, an occasional program for our members of SmithWeekly Research. Please note this program is a private discussion and everything contained herein is for entertainment and educational purposes only. With that, we hope you're in a comfortable position, along with your favorite beverage, to enjoy the discussion. We remind our audience to examine our show notes attached to each of our shows to better understand how our program functions. Before we get into our discussion today, we want to say thanks for questions coming from our audience at SmithWeekly, including Edward S., Andy J., and Paul M. On the program today, we have a returning guest. Mr. Cameron Tymstra is on the program. Cameron is the president and CEO of Targa Exploration. The company is focused on gold in Canada with its Opinaca Gold Exploration project in the James Bay region of Quebec. The company is listed on the Canadian Securities Exchange under the symbol TEX, as well as on the US OTC markets under the symbol TRGEF. Mr. Tymstra, good to have you back on the podcast.
Andrew, I appreciate you having me back. It's always great to chat.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting market out there, interesting times, lots of stuff happening in the junior sector. And why don't we jump right into Targa? You guys have some stuff upcoming. Since we last spoke, the company, of course, has focused completely all hands on deck on its efforts to advance exploration efforts at Opinaca based on the field work from last year that had some sampling work and target identification over a 7-kilometer trend that you guys have identified out there. Talk just a little bit for our audience and some of the new audience about some of that past work leading up to the recent geophysics results that you guys had just come out with.
Sure, Andrew. As you know, Target did not originally acquire the Opinaca project with expectations of making a gold discovery there. It was originally a lithium prospect, but it was an area that had never really been explored for anything before. Really no history of exploration there until we acquired the project from Kennerland Minerals at the end of 2022. And so 2023, that summer, was really the first exploration program that anyone's really launched on this ground. And what we did was go out and do a regional till sampling program. Now, this area of the country, like much of Canada, was covered by glaciers in the last ice age. And as those glaciers retreated, they left a bunch of till material behind. And for those of you not familiar with what till is, it's basically just a bunch of crushed up bedrock that could be size range from clay up to big boulders, house-sized boulders, and everything in between. So there's a bit of a blanket over that covering much of the project. And so we sample the till material to kind of give us an idea of what is in the bedrock below. And so it was with this regional till sampling program that in 2023, where we were hoping to find indications of lithium pegmatite deposits, such as lithium and tantalum and cesium in the till. And what we found instead was a very large gold anomaly right in the middle of the project. It wasn't just gold that we were seeing in that till from that program. We were also seeing arsenic, antimony, tungsten, really key indicator elements for orogenic gold deposits. And that got us very excited about the project. Again, no one's ever thought to look for gold here before. And so follow-up programs in 2024 helped us sort of narrow down that anomaly and kind of draw a ring around it. And what we've since identified is a roughly 7-kilometer long east-west trend, where everywhere in the down ice direction from that, we start to see gold appearing in the till. And so part of that sampling that we did last year was called HMC sampling, or heavy mineral concentrate, where we take about a 10 kilogram sample from each sample site of the surface till. It gets sieved down to just a fine fraction, and that gets put over a shaking table to make a gravity concentrate. And then the lab takes that gravity concentrate and analyzes the whole sample under a microscope and actually counts individual gold grains. So that's not like a fire assay to get sort of the geochemical numbers out of there for sort of grams per ton or ppb's gold. What we actually get is an actual count of how many gold grains were in each sample, and also some more qualitative data on each gold grain in terms of the size of those grains, but more importantly, the character of the edges of those grains. And that can help us identify roughly how far those grains have traveled from a bedrock source. So if they're very rounded on their edges, they've traveled further. If those edges look more pristine or only partially modified, then that may indicate a closer to bedrock source. And so a lot of the gold grain samples that we identified at Opinaca were pristine or only partially modified, suggesting that we were pretty close to the bedrock source that was shedding this gold into the till when those glaciers scraped over it. And so tracking down that bedrock source is priority number one for us at Targa and on the Opinaca project. The last bit of work that we did last year would have been in September 2024. We did a boulder prospecting program. So again, we really don't have much bedrock in the key target area. There is bedrock exposed elsewhere on the property, but of course, the way things go in exploration, where you want that bedrock to appear, unfortunately, is not where we're seeing it. So we did go and sample a number of boulders across that target area, and about a dozen of them came back with anomalous gold values, so greater than 0.1 grams per ton, the highest value of which was about 6.5 grams per ton. And so this summer, in June, we flew an airborne magnetic survey over this target area. It's the first geophysical survey that's been privately done there. We do have some regional data from the province, but it's not very detailed in nature. So from the regional stuff, we could identify there was maybe some sort of blip or something going on in the area of our target trend that we identified. But the geophysics that we just announced here on August 5th that we conducted clearly shows a nice big 4-kilometer magnetic anomaly sitting directly below that geochemical anomaly we identified in previous year's work. So we're super excited about the identification of the anomaly. I mean, it's really another layer of data that's going to help us understand what is going on geologically below the till, and just as importantly, what is going on structurally below there, because it's really the intersection of structures and lithological boundaries and deformation zones that we're going to be targeting and hopefully serve as prime traps for orogenic gold.
That's good information. So with that information in hand now, and what you guys know from previous work on the project, and of course the work you did in 24, I guess this takes us right into where we're headed next, and that is your guys' maiden drill program, starting to kick that off here soon. What would you say there as far as a couple things? First, obviously we have some permitting status for you to give us there as far as when those permits will be received. And then also, what do you think will be the testing as far as where do you guys want to put those first couple holes exactly?
Yeah, in terms of permitting, I mean, just for the program in general, we're working with Kennerland Minerals again, like we did with all of our previous programs. They're the project generator from whom we purchased the project originally. They still own a 3% NSR on the project, but we're working very closely with their technical team, and they're going to continue serving as project operators for us for this maiden drill program. We've been incredibly pleased with the work they've done on the previous 3 programs out there at Opinaca in terms of doing things safely, doing things on time, on budget. So we're very happy to be working with them again for this maiden drill program up there. They have a ton of experience in this type of exploration in Quebec and Ontario. And they're the ones that have really helped us identify these targets to begin with. So they're going to be executing this program with us as well again this year. And in terms of targets, where we want to put the first drill holes is really going to be where we think is the best chance of finding orogenic gold and where those traps are for that gold to accumulate. So what we want to identify are basically the intersections of lithological boundaries, so where there's a geological change with certain structural features. So if there's a shear zone or a fault zone or some sort of structure passing through those boundaries, if those boundaries are going along sort of like a fold hinge, if there's been multiple stages of deformation, we're looking for those second and third phase deformation features and where those features intersect with other structures and lithological boundaries. And so we've identified, from the geophysics, a few of those key zones that we want to first target. And those key zones also happen to correlate with some of the geochemistry that we're seeing at the surface. So in terms of where we're seeing sort of more of a cluster of anomalous gold boulders, also coinciding with, a fold hinge and a structure passing through, seeing sort of multiple features like that all in one area. That's how we sort of select the first targets for the drill program. So we've identified 3 or 4 such areas where we see those intersecting features from the geophysics coinciding with some of the other stronger anomalies that we've seen in the geochemistry, particularly like high gold grain counts, for example, from that HMC sampling, and some of the higher grade gold values in the boulders. In terms of permitting and timing to get out there, drill permits have been submitted. Kennerland's team did all of that submission work for us. Not their first rodeo out there, so we don't expect to have any issues with that. It typically takes about 45 days to get those permits approved. And so we expect to have approval to start drilling out there in early September. And right now we're targeting roughly mid-September, sort of September 15th start date to actually get the drills on the ground out there at Opinaca.
Great, Cameron. Thank you for that information. Doubt there'll be any issues on the permitting side of things, given work already done on the project, and of course Kenorland's expertise level as well. Wishing you guys some really good luck there to hopefully have something come out as far as good results. First drill programs are always tough as well. As you got to collect data and all the things that come out of that, but hopefully there'll be some good results there that come out and continue to progress this project. With respect to schedule here, you guys will be starting sometime mid-September. Talk about when you see that you guys would be wrapping up, as well as what your expectations are. I know there's subjective, Cameron, to some of the labs and third parties out there, but what would you say would see maybe some first results start flowing? Just talk a little bit about that.
Right now, we're working with Kenorland to finalize the details in terms of that schedule. It'll kind of come down to exactly how many meters we're going to get to drill out there, and whether or not we use one drill rig or two. Obviously, if we use a single drill rig, that'll push the completion date out a little bit further than if we get two drill rigs out there. But our program it's a smaller drill program as far as drill programs go. We're going to be targeting between 2,000 and 3,000 meters of drilling out there. We're kind of on the cusp of whether or not it makes sense to bring a second drill rig out or not. So in terms of timeline, it's probably going to take us 30 to 40 days, pushing into sort of mid-October, late October to finish that program. And then typical turnaround times, depending on how busy the labs are, maybe another 6 weeks or so before we get assays out there. So I think before the end of the year is when we can expect to start seeing some assays come in from that drill program. And we're certainly excited about the prospect of making a new gold discovery in an area where no one thought to look for gold before.
Well, looking forward to seeing that stuff kick off, some of these milestones be completed there, and hopefully everything will be wrapped up and closed up and have some initial results in December. Some good timing there, given some of the lead times out there with the labs. To update here on cap structure, now we're getting into a little bit of the money side of things. Back in May of this year, the company completed a 2.6 million Canadian non-brokered private placement, along with a share consolidation. Talk a little bit about that, and then also if we can lump in here current shares outstanding post that financing and consolidation, some of the existing key equity holders, as well as some of the new ones that came in with the placement, and then also what your thinking is as far as funds and the budget to carry the company through the end of this program, through the end of the year, and into next year.
Yeah, as you mentioned, we completed that financing for about $2.5 million, sort of late May, early June, which has provided the funding not just for our overhead purposes, but the majority of that were flow-through funds through a charity flow-through financing that we arranged. So we got a nice premium on that over the hard dollar units, and we thought that was a good opportunity, that financing, to clean up that capital structure. We were bringing in a lot of new investors, and so we did a 5-to-1 share consolidation. And now, post financing, we have about 41 million shares outstanding. So we've got a nice, cleaner share structure. We've got about 10 million warrants or so, though some of those are going to be expiring in the next 10 days, I believe. And we're sitting at a share price of around, I think it's about 16 cents or so today. So market cap today, we're looking at around $6.5 million or so. But we've got a nice sort of clean share structure moving forward, and a lot of great shareholders, and it's pretty tightly held as well. I mean, in terms of who those shareholders are, Kenorland Minerals is certainly one of our larger shareholders, since they received a number of shares for that original project acquisition. I think they have about 3.5% of our outstanding shares. Management board and advisors combined have another 7.5%. And then we've got a couple of Quebec-based funds, SIDEX and NQI, that collectively own, I think, about 3% after that last financing. But a lot of it else is sort of tightly held, mostly through high net worth individuals, mostly in the Vancouver area. I think about 50% of our stock is held by a number of high net worth individuals, and then about a third of the stock or so is more sort of on the retail side. So a very nice, clean share structure moving forward here, and it's really put us in a great position. And especially for future financings. Obviously, if we make a big discovery hole here at Opinaca this summer, we'll want to get right back out there as soon as possible with a follow-up drill program, and we'll need to fund that at that time. But we've got a great group backing us with Inventa Capital, obviously where the company was incubated and where we share office space in Vancouver. Been a huge help in helping us raise capital for the company, and also working closely with our chairman, Jim Paterson, and our other advisor, John Robbins from the Discovery Group, who are instrumental in unlocking that network for raising money for big projects and big discoveries as well. So I think the company is very well positioned in that regard going forward. In terms of funding this drill program, that's largely come out of that financing that we just closed. So we're ready to go up there. Whether or not we'll do another financing before the end of the year, we'll have to see what those results look like going forward, and how we're going to play out the next phase of exploration for Opinaca. In terms of other corporate development opportunities for the company, we've always got our eyes open for other gold opportunities as well. Now that we've done that restructuring and new financing and bringing in new shareholders, I mean, we are fully committed to gold exploration in Targa. We're no longer spending any money or doing any work on lithium exploration in the future. We're solely focused on gold, but as Opinaca is our only gold project in the portfolio, we'll certainly keep our eyes open for other gold opportunities as well. If something interesting and exciting comes up, we may look at staking other ground or looking for other gold opportunities out there to add to that gold portfolio. I mean, we're in such a strong gold market now. It's certainly the time to be making gold discoveries, in my opinion.
Well, hopefully we have a good opportunity here where you guys get into something good with the drill program, able to raise capital, follow up, and continue with Opinaca here, because it certainly looks quite promising as far as what you guys have been able to show so far. We'll do some testing with the drill bit here soon. So excited to hear about that. One of the other things here, I just want to have you remind the audience, of course, we've got some new audience as well, but talk just a little bit about Quebec in terms of this James Bay region. Talk about some of the other deposits in the area. Just warm the audience up a little bit to this area in Quebec as far as, exploration and some of the assets that are already sitting out there, development projects.
Yeah, Quebec's always been a great place for exploration. They've always had a very supportive provincial government for resource development, especially in the north. They've got great infrastructure. I mean, almost all of the power in Quebec comes from hydroelectricity, and they have an abundance of that. So they've got probably the cheapest electricity in the country. There's a high voltage power line that goes from one of the hydro jam projects just about 50 kilometers north of Opinaca. There's also an all seasons highway called the Trans-Taiga Highway that runs east west along that power line, more or less, and that's also about 50 kilometers north of our project. So we certainly have some great provincial infrastructure in that area. They've usually had pretty good tax incentives in terms of flow through premiums and things like that. Although they did change some of those premiums and some of those tax incentives less so to our advantage earlier this year, which was a little bit unfortunate, but it's still a great province to work in. There's still a lot of mining and a lot of mineral exploration going on in and around our area. Where we are specifically, as I said, is an area that has been historically overlooked in terms of mineral exploration, and that's because our project sits in what's called the Opinaca subprovince. And that geological subprovince is predominantly composed of metasedimentary rocks with some igneous intrusives. And so it doesn't really have those classic greenstone or volcanic rocks that historically geologists and exploration teams have targeted for gold and base metals. Just a little bit to the north of us, once you get out of the Opinaca subprovince, you hit these greenstone belts in the La Grande subprovince, and that's where you're going to find Patriot battery metals, a very well-known Corvette lithium deposit. That's the largest lithium pegmatite deposit in North America. They're probably 40 kilometers north of us or so. That's probably the biggest center of exploration activity in our area. I don't believe it's called Corvette anymore. I believe they've since renamed the project, but there's a lot of larger sort of lithium pegmatite deposits that have been discovered up in that volcanic band up there in the La Grande subprovince. But if you're looking for the nearest gold mine or sort of more well-known gold deposit, you've got to go about 140 kilometers to the west or so of us, just past the western edge of the Opinaca subprovince, where you'll find the Éléonore gold mine. And that was formerly a Goldcorp mine, which obviously was acquired by Newmont, and Newmont recently sold that to, I believe, a UK firm. And that produces over 200,000 ounces of gold a year, I believe. So it's been a very significant producer of gold. It does sit in a somewhat similar geological environment in terms of being in a very high metamorphic grade geological environment with some igneous intrusives around. And a little bit to the east and southeast of that, you've got the Chichu deposit, which I believe is a reduced intrusion related gold system. Again, in a very high metamorphic grade environment out there. And so you've got a couple of explorers in that area that have made some gold deposits sort of right along the edge of the Opinaca subprovince, but not really quite in it where we are. So where we're looking again is really been completely ignored and unexplored. If you go to the Quebec government website and look at the claims map there's a huge area that's really unstaked. If we're successful in making a big gold discovery here at Opinaca, it could certainly have the potential to rewrite or at least create a new exploration target for future teams to come into this region and look for deposit types that maybe they haven't considered before. I know Kennerland's team has since staked 2 project areas elsewhere in the Opinaca subprovince, and they're spending about $2 million in regional till sampling across those projects this summer, hoping to look for an anomaly like the one they helped us find at Opinaca. So certainly there's some teams coming in and looking for these types of gold systems, but we really don't even know exactly what type of gold system we're looking for. So there's a lot to be discovered later this year, and once we start drilling and seeing some core come out of the ground, hopefully that will help us answer a lot more questions in terms of just what it is we're looking for and what environment this gold is occurring in.
Cameron, thank you for that. Good information on Quebec here. Gives the audience a bit of a flavor and warms them up to the jurisdiction a little bit if they're not familiar with it. It's certainly promising as well that some folks such as Kenorland's looking to add there and continue to do investigative work on the ground. And then, back to your comments on the M&A side of things, just so the audience can maybe hear a little bit more from you on that. It's obviously always important to be looking at other projects, other jurisdictions. Besides Quebec, is there somewhere else in Canada, maybe you can pick one province. I hate to make you do that, but if you can pick one other province, as you guys look out there and consider to evaluate other potential deals out there, what jurisdiction would you prefer to look at if you had to choose one of them?
Number one for us is making a gold discovery at Opinaca. But if I did choose other provinces to work in, I mean, Saskatchewan always gets great reviews from companies working there, has a super supportive government in that regard. Obviously, they've got a lot of uranium exploration and uranium discovery there, but I think teams are starting to go out there and looking for other, gold deposits and things like that as well. So I'd say Saskatchewan's probably, one of the top provinces that comes to mind in terms of being supportive and having that government support and local community support is very essential in this business and helps smooth things along. We take an awful lot of risks here in mineral exploration, and so anytime you can find a jurisdiction that eliminates or reduces those more administrative risks, that's always a big plus in my book. And I think Saskatchewan's probably one of the provinces that does that best.
Good choice. Yeah, and this is as greenfield as it gets. I mean, this is very high risk exploration here. It's full on greenfield, but of course, the reward is could be potentially tremendous as well, and especially in greenfield areas like what you guys are doing here with Opinaca is as greenfield as it gets, in my opinion. So, very good information here, and looking forward to seeing what you guys are able to turn up with this drill program coming right up. Well, Cameron, before we go, any other final comments? And I'll leave you also with this for potential investors who are listening in. The company has a market capitalization of about 7 million Canadian dollars. Why should Targa Exploration be considered within the institutional, family office, and retail investors portfolio at this point?
Well, we've seen a very strong gold market, Andrew, obviously for the last sort of 12 to 18 months. That's benefited certainly the miners, and it's been quite a while for that to trickle down to the juniors. But I think interest in the junior space is finally picking up. I think new discoveries are the things that are going to be rewarded the most in terms of the highest potential leverage to the upside and that blue sky potential. So I think timing is certainly right to be getting involved in juniors that are looking to make big impactful discoveries, and that is exactly what we're looking to do with Targa. Is we're looking for big impactful discoveries. We're not looking to add another couple 100,000 ounces to an existing resource. We want to be going out there into these unknown lands that have great potential to make those big elephant-sized discoveries. And I think the timing is perfect for those sorts of discoveries. And if we are successful in making those, I think investors have the potential to be rewarded very well, both in terms of the discovery success, but also more specifically the market timing of those discoveries. So certainly I encourage investors to keep a close eye on Targa as we move forward and get out there with the drill rigs just in the next month or two.
How best can interested parties contact the company?
Yeah, anyone can certainly reach out to me directly at Cameron@targaexploration.com. Always happy to have a chat with investors or potential investors or anyone just wants to ask some questions or get some more insight in the company. You can certainly find us on LinkedIn and Twitter as well. And if you want to send us your email address to info@targaexploration.com, we can certainly add you to our mailing list so you're first to receive all of our press releases when they first come out.
Cameron, that's great. And of course, I encourage the audience to always reach out to the companies directly, have a conversation, do some research, and it's always good to establish that and build your own network. Well, Cameron, thank you. Best of luck with this drill program coming right up, and we look forward to having you back to update on the work.
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, very much looking forward to our next chat, and hopefully we'll have a big discovery to discuss.